Today, we're going to unpack 5 cases that blur the lines between justice, influence, and controversy, of course. From alleged witness intimidation and strip club lawsuits to billion-dollar brand power moves and political corruption scandals, this isn't just about the law tonight. It's about legacy. But let me ask you this. In a world where celebrity often trumps credibility, is the court of public opinion more powerful than the court of law? Is social media more powerful than law school? Let's find out tonight as we unpack these cases with our legal beagles. Joining us tonight, we have the humorist at law, Sean Carter. Sean Carter, welcome back to Celebrity Court.
Thanks, Your Honor. Glad to be here.
Enjoying that humorist at law. We have that fiery civil attorney, Shatan Turner. Welcome back to Celebrity Court.
Hi, Your Honor. Hi, Attorney Carter. Glad to be here.
Yep, and you know that author that can't get enough of cursing at us. Shit, they never taught you in law school. Attorney Weiss, get on in here with Celebrity Court. Welcome back.
Thank you, Your Honor, and I will take that shit talking. Thank you so much.
All right, Algorithm, we got some important news that we're going to announce on Friday. Make sure you turn on your notifications and do not be late and don't miss Friday's show. We have a big announcement coming up on Friday. And before we get started, please hit that like button because the likes just don't be liking. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. If you're already subscribed, be sure to hit the share button and invite some folks over to enjoy the show as they learn the law off of the stupidity of our unforgiving celebrities, political officials, and sports figures. Also, don't forget to turn on your notifications. And last but not least, we love it when you drop down in the chat, especially Sean Carter and Attorney Weiss. And they of you guys in the comments. Because we really do like making sure that we engage you and get you involved in the show. All right, let's get started. Court is now in session. First up, we have an update about rapper Yella Beezy. He was accused of retaliation against a key member in the M3 Mo3 murder investigation. This isn't a minor charge. This is felony level intimidation in Texas, where the legal system doesn't play. This is serious for Texas because someone is now dead. All right, Attorney Sean Carter, give us this update and tell us what's going on with Yella Beezy.
All right. So just a brief recap. All right. Yella Beezy had gotten in some dispute with the rival crew in town, and Mo3, who's in the other crew, was driving down the road one day. Some guy's chasing behind him. He gets out, tries to flee on foot. The guy wearing a ski mask guns him down. Interestingly enough, it's on camera. Everything's on camera, right? So they know who did it. They locked this guy up, and he had already had some weapons charges. So they've got him in jail awaiting trial. And I'm assuming, don't know, but I'm assuming that he must have been talking, trying to get some of those years off, because now they've arrested Yella Beezy and said you set up the whole hit. And apparently they've got some records. By the way, you look at Yella Beezy there, he's not so yellow anymore. See, when you get in this kind of trouble, you get black. He's gonna be like Wesley Snipes black by the time this is over. But the point is that he's in jail now. Last week he had a $2 million bail, and he's like, "Look, I got some money. You saw that gold chain, but the gold chain not worth $2 million. It's worth about $750. So if you lower the bail to $750, and they did, and now he's out at home, on with severe restrictions, and took his passport and all that stuff. So he's gonna face trial." But it doesn't look good for him. Doesn't look good at all.
Let me ask you this. Let me go to you, Attorney Weiss. Isn't lowering the bail usually a good sign?
It's here's where I'm confused, right? Lowering the bail is usually a good sign. The court doesn't do it by weighing the evidence. The court does it by looking to see if there's a flight risk, what they could say. But so, I mean, what's the new play? I have some fame. I don't have that kind of money, and I don't want to be in jail anymore. So let me post a bond that I can afford. Like, it doesn't make sense. So I think it's what Attorney Carter said. I think he is going to be chatting or filling in more information or doing something that would benefit the government or the state. That's the only reason why I
That's
can
the
see
only
them
reason they
lowering
would
it.
reduce the bill. Okay, got it. All right. I want to give a shout out to really quickly to Jessica Brooks. Thank you for the super chat. She says that the super chat is for Shatan's alimony payments.
That's a good friend right there. I mean, thank you, Jessica.
Y'all are so messy. Venetia Phillips says, I watched old shows last night. Shatan, your children are so beautiful. Oh, when we did the profile on
thank
Shatan.
you so much.
Venetia also, hey family, I'm in the house. Welcome. Kenny Black, hey Shatan. Everybody's okay. So I guess Shatan is the hot commodity tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Lee Wire Coyote Montclair Smith says Yellow been in the sun, getting ready for his men. Oh gosh, y'all are bad. This is crazy. All right, let's go. All right, so let me ask you this really quickly. If you feel like the reduce in the bond amount could be because he's cooperating, he's talking, right?
I don't see why. I mean, otherwise you go in, there was no change of circumstance. He wouldn't become less of a flight risk overnight. And the court really doesn't care if you could afford the bond or not. The bond is not tied to affordability only. There are a bunch of factors.
So tell me this. He didn't shoot the gun though. What's going to happen to the guy who killed the guy?
Oh, he's not going to get he's not going to be released on any bail. He's going to be a guest of the state or the federal government for quite some time.
Yeah, and just so we're clear, that guy's already been arrested. He's in federal prison. He actually got caught totally something different, and they were like, "Hey, you're not supposed to have a gun." So they haven't even tried him yet on this particular thing. They're saying, "Hey, you violated your parole. You weren't supposed to have a gun. You've already got 9 years to serve on that. We'll get with you later."
Okay, so what exactly is Yella Beezy being charged for?
What is he being charged for?
Soliciting murder. Soliciting murder. He put out the hit. Or remember we learned the other day, what's it called? The ticket. He wrote the ticket.
Right, he wrote the ticket.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Witness intimidation.
So what's the lesson here for algoritms? Even though you didn't pull the trigger, you could still serve the time?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Is that only in the state of Texas or is that across the board legally?
Across the board. Every state and even in the federal government.
And it doesn't just relate to murder, because a lot of people be like, oh, well, I would never be a part of murder. It actually has to do with the concept of conspiracy generally, right? Mm-hmm. So if there is a crime, an underlying crime, and you help facilitate the commission of that crime, whether it be robbery, whether it be murder, whether it be, North Carolina has this interesting thing called criminal conversation that has to do with, cheating on your spouse. And they also have an alienation of affection statute, which also rise in criminal. And so, like, if you were the party who, you knew two people who were in love, they were married to other people, and you always gave them your beach house, well, you might find yourself into conspiracy to commit, alienation of affection or criminal conversation. So really what you want to do, algoriters, is not cavort with criminals and don't be a criminal. And then you can avoid prison. Otherwise, you might find yourself getting sized for an orange jumpsuit to see if they have one in your size.
Okay, so let me ask you this. All right, and I'm just thinking about what you're actually saying to me. So say I was dating a criminal, and I would hear him on the phone all the time, and I heard him putting a hit out on somebody, and I didn't say anything. Do I have any liability for not saying anything?
You could get caught up. Yes, sir. If they could prove that, because you had the ability to prevent the commission of a crime. So that's the thing. You would not be as culpable as the person who, drove the getaway car, made the call, bought the gun, hid the gun, right? There are layers to how much trouble you can get into. But if there was evidence that you just sat by listening to your person orchestrate the commission of a crime, they would if they didn't try to prosecute you, they would likely threaten to prosecute you, give you a deal to turn on the person who was really involved, and then you would get the charges dismissed that way. But you're in trouble. Yeah.
Or Al will get proposed to by the person who was doing it and get married, and then they have a spousal privilege so that Al couldn't be called into court. Look.
So if you're married, if you're married, are you protected?
Yes.
Okay, so explain that to me.
So if you're married, you have what's called Shaitan immunity.
Oh.
You get some of the you get some of the protections, just like attorney-client privilege, just like doctor-patient privilege. So you get that privilege. And it's a little bit different for an attorney, because if we know that you're going to go out there and commit a crime, we have an obligation to report that. If I overheard and really thought that the person on the phone was going to take the gun and go out there and kill the other person, as an attorney, I have an obligation to report.
All right. Kenny Black asked a great question. Kenny Black said, we aren't mandated to report crimes though, right?
That is correct. You are not mandated.
We're not mandated, so we don't have to.
Yeah, just so we're clear, if, for instance, your roommate or your significant other is on the phone planning crimes, you technically do not have an obligation to go to the police, rat them out. Okay, what's going to happen though is that if they get caught, the police are likely going to come to you and accuse you of being somehow aiding and abetting. You went to the store and got the materials for them. You did this, you did that, and they'll likely do that, as Attorney Turner was pointing out, so that you will turn state's evidence and testify against your boot. Right now, with the spousal immunity privilege, understand that you can say, "Hey, that's my spouse. I'm not going to testify against him." On the other hand, that's a privilege you can waive. So if you manage your spouse, like let's say Shaitan, so if Shaitan's husband soon to be ex-husband getting in trouble, I assume you're gonna testify, right?
You got me thinking.
Exactly, you can testify against them. You don't have to, but you can.
Here's the other thing, and Attorney Turner said it as well. If you're out there and you're driving the getaway car and your friends go into the store and they come out and they happen to kill the store clerk, guess what? Even though all you did was sit in the car and drive, it's called felony murder, and now you're going to jail for as long as them.
Oh, wow. All right. Speaking of jail, Yolanda Saldivar, the woman who murdered the beloved superstar Selena, has been denied parole nearly 30 years after the crime. And while legally eligible, the court of public emotion is just as strong today as it was in 1995. All right, I'm going to go to you, Attorney Jason. Break down what is going on. So she's eligible for parole, but she didn't get it because of public emotion. What does that mean? And how much weight does public sentiment carry when a parole board makes decisions like this? Because it seems like she's been in there 30 years.
Yep, and she's going to continue to be in there until the end of her life, is my guess. Here's the summary of it, right? When I read this story and I did the research on the story, all the articles, they don't even mention this woman's name. They all say the woman who killed the music icon Selena, or the woman convicted, right? You have to go down to the second or third paragraph to get her name as Yolanda. So in this case in Texas, it was a 3-member panel of the Texas Board of Pardons and Paroles, and they voted not to release her. But they did say that it will be eligible again in 2030 for her to go ahead and come up again for probation. So there is a chance that maybe in 5 years she will come up again. But it all has to do that this was a high-profile case, and there is also some of the things that talk about the fear that she is in. I truly believe if she got paroled today, she'd be dead within a week, because somebody who has lived this and who is a fan and someone who was deeply emotionally hurt by this, they could go ahead and they will probably take this woman's life. Now, here's the most interesting thing. While she was segregated from other people, she used her time to get her paralegal degree and an associate's degree in criminal justice. She's filed civil rights cases having to do with her mistreatment. She's filed other motions to go ahead and have parole and have things reheard, and all of them have been denied. And again, remember, her sentence was life in prison with the possibility of parole after 30 years. Not guaranteed.
Okay.
That's the first time they'll consider it.
Right. So it was considered, right? So she met all of the requirements to have it considered. Or does it just automatically, when you say with the possibility to be considered?
So what she had to do is she had to actually file a petition in order to have this hearing. They weren't going to automatically say in 30 years and a day, here you go. She then waited her 30 years, and then she started the process. And they brought her up. They heard her. I don't know if it was a 1-3 vote or a 2-3 vote or a 3-3 vote, but she was denied by the 3-person panel, and that's it.
Okay, really quickly, I'm going to go to Sonny Clark. I'm going to let you guys answer this. He said, Sonny, I don't know if Sonny's a girl or a guy, but Sonny says, and don't lie. I'll just have Simone do a background check. Sonny wants to know, has any of you ever been to jail? Let's start with you, Attorney Carter.
No, I'm claustrophobic. I can't even stay. I'm a little nervous in the studio here. So no, I have never been in jail.
All right, Attorney Weiss.
I have been to jail, but to be with clients. I have never been arrested, taken into custody, or anything like that. But I have spent time in jails.
Oh, that ain't in jail. Boy, bye. Attorney Turner.
So, and I put this in the chat. I've never been arrested, but if anybody wants to know about a time I accompanied a boyfriend to jail, reach out, DM me.
I remember you telling us that.
Was that you driving the stick shift?
Yes, that's right. I did. I told it on the show.
You burned it all the way home. Well,
is that what we call it this day? That's what we call it now, driving the stick shift?
Driving the stick shift.
He was driving it and riding it, baby. She's dual purpose.
I got it back then. I didn't ride a stick shift back then.
Oh, okay. You didn't ride then. Okay, I understand. I have been to jail. I was, what year was it? It was 2005. I want to say 2005. I was arrested for driving while being black in New York City on the Upper East Side. Okay. Crazy story. I might have to share that one day. All right, but this is another question that I had for the algoritors. Algoritors, do you think it's okay for prisoners? Drop down in the chat. Do you think it's okay for prisoners to get their degree while they're in college, like this woman did? Do you think it's okay for prisoners to get degrees while they're in college, like murderers?
Not college, while they're in prison, right?
No. Do you think it's okay while they're in prison? Do you think it's okay for murderers while they're in prison get their college degrees? Drop down in the chat. Drop down in the chat. Drop down in the chat. I want to see what you guys have to say about this. Do you think it's okay for prisoners, all types, including murderers, allowed to get their college degrees? Let's see what the chat says. I knew Al was going to be the one who ain't going to tell one. How dare you?
I was writing what Abby NYC said. I was typing that in. Let them get an education and stay busy. I like that.
So Kendra says yes, they need knowledge. SL says yes. JP Mills says yes, I do. Rehabilitation to be released back on the community. Colette says yes, they might as well. Colette, you are shady. They might as well do something productive. Benicia Phillips says yes, they should get a degree. They can. Yes. Oh, that's interesting. So I wanted to add, the reason why I asked this question, everybody, algorithm, is just because I teach in the prison system. I teach at Bowie State University in the School of Communications right now, but starting in the fall, I'll be teaching in the prison system to help prisoners get their college degree from Bowie State University. So I just wanted to feel what people thought about that, because I was on the fence about it. I think everybody should have access to, like you said, rehabilitation and knowledge. But I really was wrestling with this concept because it's a maximum prison is the prison that I'll be teaching in. Am I really? Should I be teaching prison? Should I be teaching murderers? You know, should I be better in their lives for something, this heinous crime that they committed? So
yes, and just don't teach them how to turn a toothbrush into a shank, okay?
Just don't get there.
I think the challenge
kind of weird.
Isn't so much should they, as Afra Sings said in the chat, college should be free for all. So where I get caught up isn't so much why should they get an education, but why can so many other people not get one? And so it would be nice if after they get out, somehow they have to pay back part of the cost that get used for some non-prisoner to get an education. But the notion that they are doing time, they get 3 hots and a cot on the taxpayer's dime, and then also get a degree without distraction on the taxpayer's dime. I mean, kudos to them for being productive during that time, but there's a whole lot of people flipping burgers who would give their eye teeth to get a college degree, and they can't.
Well, I used to think the same thing, Shaitan, until I used to teach in Virginia. I mean, in New York City, I used to teach the GRE for prisoners in Rikers. So there is an argument on the other side of that, and this is that argument. Those individuals, because of the population age, I was so shocked. It started at 18. The majority of the prisoners that I taught were from 18 to 22. They weren't even old enough to know the decisions that they made, in a sense. And then on the other side of that, they didn't have any type of, and I'm not talking about just murders, I'm just talking about prisoners in general. They really kind of just threw their lives away during the high school period. And when they got out, a lot of prisoners, when they released out of prison after serving their time, they didn't even have a high school degree. So they couldn't get a job anywhere. So 80% of them would be presented back in the prison within 90 days. I'm sure, Jason, you could probably share some of those statistics doing, working in the courts in Miami. But the statistic was so dramatic that teaching them while they were in prison to get a degree so they could at least apply for a job and have an opportunity to possibly land a job to get their lives back on track provided them a decrease of 40% in their re-entry. Re-entry. So I was like you, Shaitan, but then again, if it's going to keep them from doing the bad act again, then I'm all for it.
But like Shaitan said, and like I think it was someone else who dropped in the comments, look, I've got a son who's starting college. It's going to cost me an arm and a leg in order for him to go. But then you have somebody who did commit something, was found to have done that, is serving time, and is getting an education free of cost.
Yeah, but you'd have to think about what it's costing for an individual like that to be housed in prison. What's that costing taxpayers? So that too is an issue.
Correct.
The cost of not only just the crimes that they committed and the lives that they've affected, the cost of having institutions to house them and feed them and all of that is also extremely high. But anyway, all right, I'm sorry I got off track, algorithms. Let's get back on track here. Next up, Pinky Cole. Yes, we love us some Pinky Cole. Buys back Slutty Vegan. Now, this is a major power move, baby, and it's good to see an African-American female woman do it. Pinky Cole, the founder of Slutty Vegan, has officially brought back 100% of her company. This isn't a crime story, but it is a clapback story. But where there's money, there's always legal strategy. All right, I want to throw this to you, Attorney Carter. Let's talk about it. If founders in founder buybacks, what legal protection exists to ensure the founder isn't pushed out during the growth stages, as we see possibly happen with Pinky Cole?
Okay. And this is something I used to do a lot. Actually, that was my area of law, the mergers and acquisitions. And so in this case, what happened is a couple of years ago, was it 2021 to 22, two groups of investors got together. One is a New Voices Fund. The New Voices Fund is kind of a cool group. It's a group in Atlanta that seeks out sisters, African-American women, to invest in. So they've invested in, some of you know, the Honey Pot. I'm not even going to, if you don't know, Google it. Okay. And a bunch of companies, and they get them sort of early stage investments. They have one successful, like for instance, at one point, Pinky had the Slutty Vegan, one successful restaurant, and says, I want to expand. They say, hey, we can give you some money to do that. So they gave her $25 million, these two funds, and she goes out.
Whoa, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, in 2000. By the way, here's the thing: is they gave her $25 million for only 1/4 of the company. So the company at that time is worth $100 million. She has the other $75 million of value. Now she doesn't have $75 million in cash, but that's what they evaluated it as. They go out, and over the last couple of years, things have been tight, right? They opened and expanded. They opened some restaurants, and they had a little trouble. And so they went back to her earlier this year and said, look, we need to renegotiate this whole thing. Okay. And we've got
the fund went back to her and said, we gave you $25 million. We thought about it. We don't want just a fourth. We want more. Is that what you're saying to me?
And
right
basically,
now?
They said to her, absolutely, we got to make some changes here. You know what? We'll buy you out. How about this? It's not worth so much anymore. We'll give you X dollars. Get out. We're going to fix this. And then the cool thing is, this is what I love. This is a cool story about Pinky. She took that money, got some other investors, and they came and bought them out. And said, okay, you know what? We'll buy the whole thing back. And I imagine that they paid a lot less, all right, than the $100 million valuation, because obviously their argument to her was, we're in trouble.
We're losing money, right?
We're losing money. So they were like, we're gonna. But I love the fact that she went out and found her own investors. Said, okay, I'll find somebody else to give me money. And now she's bringing this back. And hopefully they'll try some different strategy. It's tough out there for everybody, and particularly selling grass burgers. But she's going to try to do it.
You just said grass burgers.
Yeah, but I went to and looked at the menu today. I have to admit though, they have a sloppy toppy burger. I might try vegan just for the sloppy toppy.
Snoop Dogg loves them.
Sloppy toppy. Let me ask you this really quickly before we go down this road with you. Let me ask you this, because this is what I see happening, and I want to know, legally, Attorney Carter.
Mm-hmm.
All right, say she got these investors who sold the company to these investors she got. Now she owns it back. Blah 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 blah. What if she turns it around and it becomes extremely profitable? It would seem to me that there may be some future legal challenges from the former investors if the brand becomes more profitable post buyback. What do you think?
No, and it won't be, because they've been bought out. They've gotten their money. I shouldn't say they won't. When I did this, I was at a big firm that did this, and we always had litigators on hand because we knew afterwards somebody was going to sue and say they didn't get enough money. So it's always somebody who says they didn't get enough money. But the bottom line is they've been bought out. And here's the thing is, remember, because they took over the company, they can't even say, hey, she was hiding stuff from us, because it was your company, right? When you sell your own stuff, you can't say that, oh, you cheated me. It was your company. So they should be good. And, hopefully she's able to turn this around. I love the fact that she went out and got a new set of investors. That's hard. Imagine
That's very hard, especially when you have valuations that are saying that your company is decreasing in value.
Absolutely, right?
I would love to know who invested in that. Let's get to some of these comments. All right, every NYC said vegan food can be good, but lacks real smell. She says the vegan cheese is never right. I so agree. I've tried vegan, so I've tried vegan. It's just I just can't make it work. JP Mills, happy for the good, sis. Jason Weiss, Afra Singh says, Jason Weiss, the chat. The products are great, and I recommend them. One of my ex-partners who is a male for personal care, he still uses them. They're good for everyone that wants to be clean. What is that? What are they talking about? I'm not sure.
The honey pot.
Oh, okay, got it. Oh, what is it? Like a waxing spot?
It's a cleansing powder to how do I say this? To cleanse and deodorize the Tussie Cat.
The Tussie Cat. Well, she said she gives it to a man So it can also
Right.
deodorize.
I guess it can work on the other side too. I don't know.
You can freshen up everything you want to have nice and fresh.
All
So it's
right,
like a talcum powder. Is it like a powder? So do I need to give up my baby powder?
I believe it's a
You
white.
have to give up your baby powder anyway. But I mean, I
You
guess
should not be using baby powder. Oh no,
Yeah.
no.
there was
What?
that.
Why is
class
baby powder
action.
bad?
There's a class action having to do with testicular cancer in men.
What?
And ovarian
you
cancer in
serious?
women.
Yeah.
That's an old
So why-
Southern freshen up thing that needs to go away the way of Jim Crow and slavery. Like, just get rid of it.
So why is it still being sold? And why aren't
Although
babies?
Attorney Weiss and I are not saying anything to adversely affect the sales of baby powder. So anybody who would like to use it, we are just expressing love for our friend, an individual recommendation, and not saying anything about the products as a whole.
So wait a minute, okay. So then why is it on the market? Because if it can give grown-ups these cancers, can it give babies cancer too?
So it has to. I think they changed the formula. Don't.
Yes.
You know, the baby powder that our parents and grandparents were using is not the same baby powder that is
that's what I
currently
thought.
being used. And look, my dad probably used baby powder up until his death, so he didn't stop. He didn't care. It was something he always did. So good for him.
All right, we got it. All right. Speaking of baby powder, Magic City, Atlanta's icon adult entertainment venue, is now facing a lawsuit that could expose more than just its neon lights. A former dancer is accusing the club of harassment, retaliation, and wage theft. You took her dollars. This case could set a precedent for labor rights in the nightclub industry. What in the world is going on when you are stealing from the strippers? All right, there's nobody best to ask about stripper antics than our resident Shaitan, are adult entertainers? Okay, first of all, I got so much
Did I ever
to
tell you I wanted to strip my way through college, but there really weren't
I
any
believe
options in Charlottesville because I was watching on television and we went to college a long time ago, but there was this woman who said she had put herself through college and she made $65,000 a year in tips. And I was like, oh, wow, if she can make that, why do I even need to go to college?
College, right?
But because my mama and my grandmama would have killed me if they found out I was showing Tissy Cat all over Virginia, I never did it. But
all right, really quickly, now that we know that you got that inner hoe in you, let's
it's there.
We know, trust me. Anyway, let's talk about this because there's so much for me to unpack here. Okay, first of all, when did adult entertainers, when were they ever considered employees? I thought they were like, aren't they like, what's it called? Something
Independent contractors.
Yeah, independent. I thought that they could go and as they wish, like I thought that was the whole thing about being strippers. You don't have to pay taxes. You're not an employer under current labor law. Aren't they independent contractors?
So
It depends.
The relationship that an individual has to an entity is a function of their relationship to that entity. So, like, for example, you could have household employees or you could have household people who do work at your home who are independent contractors. There's a whole host of factors through the IRS that determines whether or not someone's an independent contractor or whether they're considered an employee. In this case, Magic City alleges that they had her under contract. So she didn't have a free agency Tissy Cat. Her Tissy Cat was owned by Magic City. That's what they're saying. And so she was only able to show it there. And what she's saying is that Magic City owes her thousands of dollars in unpaid wages and allowed sexual harassment to go unchecked. And so this isn't the first.
Now this is okay. Now let me make sure I understand this completely. Sexual harassment at strip club. I don't mean to laugh. Does she mean by? Because I mean, if you go to a strip club, Magic City, someone's. That's what it does. That's what happens in a strip club. People tap your ass. You know, people solicit you for sex.
But it wasn't the guests.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's
they're saying it wasn't the guests.
It was management. It was the guy playing the records. It was the guy working the door. It was the owner of the club. It was the bartender. It was people that you have control over. You know, if it was the patrons.
Got it. Okay, so how realistic is it to expect that you are a stripper in a strip club and no one's supposed to hit on you except for the patrons?
It had nothing to do.
If you're a porn star, just because you're a porn star and have sex with your co-star doesn't mean you want to have sex with the producer and the director and everybody. Like, it has to do with what the job is. So that's what I was saying about unwanted sexual advances. If she was like working the pole or doing a lap dance or going to the champagne room, right? Those were all consented activities that she did because it was a function of her job description. But giving it up to the manager or the DJ was not in her job description. Now, you bring up a good point, because what you're talking about is, was the environment so sexually charged that, you know, just like we've talked about somebody, we're not going to say their name right now, where there was lots of baby oil flowing, like maybe people didn't know when it was like strip time and hitting ass time for the patrons and not hitting ass time for the management. The management could have thought, you know what, I pay you so I can touch you whenever I want. News flash to the algoriters, that is not true. That's going to the lines of involuntary servitude and harassment, like she's alleged. Now, interestingly, Magic City ain't with it. They're not contending that they actually were involved in this unpaid wages. She's saying it's thousands of dollars. They're denying all claims. So she is in federal court because she's alleging violation of federal employment laws. One of them's Fair Labor Standards Act. She's saying they stole wages, they stole tips, they were just thieves. She's also saying that once she tried to advocate for herself and demand that she got what was due, they were like, "Chick, get out of here." So they fired her, and that's called retaliation. And so, interestingly, for the algoriters, retaliation actually is a fairly strong claim in and of itself, because the individual complaining could be wrong about the underlying harassment or discrimination. And if their employer takes an adverse employment action against them because they complained about what they perceive to be an injustice, the person could prevail on a retaliation claim, even if they were unsuccessful on the underlying discrimination or harassment claim.
Wow, this is a lot. I would not be surprised if this young lady's in law school.
Well, I would go if I were her. She gonna have enough money. I mean, remember, we talked about similar claims before,
right?
With Floyd Mayweather out in Vegas. One of his strippers alleged the same thing against him. So yeah, Floyd Mayweather, one of his strippers alleged the same thing about him in Vegas. She charged him with failure to pay her wages and with sexual harassment. And so, I mean, it's not a trend, but it does suggest that if you run a strip club, you need to have clear delineation of boundaries and of what can happen and not happen. And at some strip clubs, because I did my research, they have very strict rules about no touching of the girls. Like, that's the thing, no touching of the girls, so that nobody's confused. You just can't touch the girls. And the girls get off the stage, they put on a trench coat or whatever, put on some sweats, and they go about their business and go home.
So you're saying no more private dances? Or if you get a private dance, you can't touch them, but they can touch you?
No, I'm talking about the people who work there. No. I'm not saying that strip clubs are going to go out of business because people can't go to the champagne room. The patrons can touch because that is what they paid for. But the management and other employees can't touch. Yeah, so once the girls are done with their shift, they leave.
All right, got it.
I want to add a couple things here. One, Shaitan, I'm telling your mama that you know what the champagne room is. All right, that's way too much specific knowledge. Okay. But two, the thing I found interesting about this case, and I think this applies to the algoriters and not strippers, but I mean, but just the idea, one of the things she said was, hey, they make me share my tips, not just with, or make me share my tips with the DJ, with the promoter, the guy who brings in the guys off the street or whatever. And sometimes she said that was like $1,000 in a night. Now, by the way, if they make her share 1,000, how much was she really making? I tell you how much she was making. So much so I got my application out of Magic City. I'll gain some weight and get some boobs, but I'm gonna do something, all right? Because I ain't getting thousands in tips, all right, every talk.
You gonna swing on a pole car?
I'm not swinging any way you want to for thousands of dollars a night. But here's the thing: is I took a look at this because I said, well, with your weight a server, do you have to share your tips, or can they make you share your tips? And it turns out they can only make you share your tips with other people who might customarily get tips. So maybe the bus boys. But what they can't make you do, and this is for if you're in your server, your manager can't come to you and say, hey, you got to tip the cook. You got to share it with the cook. You got to share it with, me, any supervisor. So a lot of times, some unscrupulous restaurant people will try to sort of take back some of the tips. No. All right. Those tips are yours. And so this is a big deal. And we have lawsuits about this all the time. They cannot make you share your tips, particularly with management. And sometimes people try that. And so they tried it against Magic City, and then I did not get away with that.
Bailiff, can you put all four of us on the main screen? All right, I gotta make sure I understand this correctly. Okay, if I was a stripper, woohoo, at a club, I would definitely want to tip out my promoter, because my promoter is who got the people in there who gave me the tips. Right? Wouldn't that make sense, guys? If you're a business, think about you're a businessman. You want to take care of the people that made sure you got paid. Why would you not want to tip out the promoter? And why would you not want to tip out the guys who gave you the opportunity to be there?
Like I think you're asking the wrong question, though.
Okay.
You're asking about her motivation. And what she's saying is that they involuntarily took her money. So it really didn't. Right. So it's not whether or not she agreed that maybe she should give some money to the promoter. It's whether or not it was her decision to make. And what she's saying is that she was deprived of earned money. And that's really her claim.
All right. I need to know how long she worked there. I need more details here.
She only worked there for a year.
So she knew what the business model was. Yeah. And she stayed working there anyway.
Well, remember, the fact that you know does not mean that it's still not illegal. And so, if you agree, by the way, someone just asked, what would be my stripper name? That's going to be Old Stallion. I'm sorry, Gray Stallion. Gray Stallion. That's what it'd be. Gray Stallion. There we go.
Gray Stallion.
If I ever catch you on a pole, if I catch you on a pole, I'm going to beat myself up for being there.
I'm obviously giving some thought. All right, the economy is rough out there.
You can get training in Atlanta. They have places where you can go and earn certificates. I know some people who have. They have, just in case times get tight. I mean, with the price of eggs, I know some people who might be on amateur night.
Attorney Weiss, they want to know, what would your stripper name be?
I'm trying to think. I have no clue.
They said Abby and YC.
I got it. Miami Weiss.
There you go, Miami Weiss.
Abby and YC, the MF family said it would be the Gray Stallion with the anaconda.
I'm not making that kind of promise, but all right.
Oh,
they got white chocolate, vanilla
there we
killer.
Go.
Oh, we got names for you.
Vanilla killer. They got all the names.
I really said vanilla killer. For Jason, the vanilla killer, the white stallion.
Oh, I love it.
God, I'm good. Jason's haircut looks good tonight. All right, Colette.
Thank you.
Don't get Toma, so don't get Toma to come on this screen now. I am not going to be a part of that. Okay, last but not least, everybody. Finally, we head to the biggest stage of all, New York City politics. Mayor Eric Adams was under federal investigation for possible corruption, conspiracy, and foreign influence. His inner circle was targeted, and the fallout could have reshaped New York's political landscape. Attorney Weiss, give us the update of what's going on here, and how was he able to escape all of the heat that was once all around him?
So the first thing is that all of these things were charges that were brought. So as we sit here today, not only are there no charges pending, but the case is permanently dismissed. So what happened was the Justice Department moved to dismiss the charges in February. And back in February, they basically said, Judge, look, we want to dismiss the charges, but we want to do it without prejudice, meaning that if something comes up later, we have the right to refile. And the judge, I'm pretty sure his name is Judge Ho, and he is in New York, and he's a very well-regarded and respected judge. He put a 75-page order out there. And basically 78-page order. And basically what he said is, I'm going to grant what you want, federal government, but I'm going to go one step further, and I am going to make it with prejudice, meaning you cannot bring these charges again. And the reason for the decision is, to the extent that the government may be seeking to extract policy concessions from the mayor, dismissal with prejudice rather than continuation of the prosecution best addresses that concern. It ensures that going forward, the charges in the indictment cannot be used as leverage over Mayor Adams or the city of New York. Because think about it.
Okay.
If it was without prejudice and you do something that the administration doesn't like, the government doesn't like, and I'm not saying it's illegal, just something they don't like. Now, all of a sudden they can say, you need to change it or we're going to refile. You need to vote our way or we're going to refile. You need to do this and we're going to refile. Now, the reason this is in the news, because this happened, a while ago, a week ago plus, because the decision that Mayor Adams put in to rerun for mayor needed to be made, and they wanted this to be a clear headline. He's got nothing. He's good to go, and he put his name into the Democratic ticket, and his name is now in the hat.
Oh, so that's a snake in the Democratic Party.
Well, I don't know.
He just got pardoned by Trump, right?
Yep.
So he's gonna owe Trump his whole political term. How many ever terms that is? He's gonna owe Trump something.
Well,
Trump lives in the city of New York. That's his city.
But see, that's the point Attorney Weiss was making. It was a genius move by the judge. If he had not dismissed it with prejudice, Trump would absolutely own him. And he'd be able to come back to him and say, you're going to do this and do this. So what the judge says, okay, I'm going to let you drop this suit, but don't come back again. Don't bother him again. So Adams technically is a free agent now. He might not be under Trump's thumb, but let me tell you what about Adams. Adams is dumb, because if you can take a bribe, don't take it for Turkish airline tickets. I just took a look here trying to figure out where would I even go in Turkey. All right. It's not like he took a bribe from
in Turkey. I just got back from Turkey.
Think about it. It's not like he took a bribe.
Attorney Wainwright, she went there and got her plastic surgery, so maybe that's why.
All right, so I guess if he want to get a BBL, go ahead and go on there, Mayor Adams. All right, but you'd have been better off taking a bribe from Spirit. All right, at least you could have gone somewhere domestic.
That's the spirit, Attorney Carter.
We are not. The words expressed by Attorney Carter are not the words.
I gotta ask y'all something though, because these stories in succession just made me think of something. So, what happens if a hoe, a slutty vegan, and a stripper walk into a bar? Do you realize that all of our stories
they will all be covered on Celebrity Court? That's what we got.
Oh,
but
guys,
it's been legalized prostitution now that Mayor Adams got off.
I know this is going to be interesting. All right,
he
everybody.
really got off.
I know,
right,
but
all right, everybody. The likes aren't liking. Do me a favor. Hit that like button. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. If you aren't subscribed, if you already subscribed, be sure to hit that share button. Invite some folks over to enjoy the show. Also, turn on your notifications as we have a big announcement on Friday. Please don't forget, and also be sure to watch Friday's show. And as always, thank you for joining us in the chat. We really enjoyed you tonight. This is the part of the show that we go to you, the viewers as well as the lawyers to see who's guilty or not guilty in the celebrity court of public opinion. First up is Yolanda, who killed poor Selena. Is she guilty or not guilty? Well, can she be guilty or not guilty of? Are we glad? Are we glad she didn't get parole? Attorney Carter, what say you?
I'm not. I kind of believe in rehabilitation. Plus, I'm tired of paying for her. I think I looked it up. She's 64 years old. I don't think she was going to be being, anybody else's fan anytime soon. I'll let her go free.
Attorney Weiss.
So to counter that argument, she's 64 years old. If they let her out, I don't think she's making 65.
Why would you go and do something to this woman when diabetes gonna get her next week?
Again, there are so many fans out there that were so destroyed by this that I do think, look, she's still getting death threats.
So if that's the case, that's the case, why wouldn't you let her out and let her figure it out?
And maybe that's what the 3 parole board members decided, that they don't want to be complicit in that. So they
care. They love criminal. They love murderers now.
Yep.
All right, Attorney Turner, what say you?
I think she's guilty of aging prematurely, because that means in these pictures she must have only been in her 30s, and I swear she looks 64 in those pictures, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I also think that she's guilty of not reading the room. So she filed the petition, as Attorney Weiss, I think it was, said, and believing that she had a chance. And I don't think she really had a chance. She just didn't. It was too high profile.
So you didn't think she would ever have a chance to get out?
I not this time. Not so. People have multiple times to seek parole, and I just don't think, based on the facts, that they were going to ever give it to her on the first go round.
All right, got it. That makes sense. All right, I'm Al, and I'm the judge here in Celebrity Court, and I would have let her go. That's my decision. I would have let her out and let her fend for herself and see if all this heat that they claim that was out there for her really exists. Next up, let's talk about Pinky. Are we glad or not glad Pinky got her business back? Attorney Carter?
I'm absolutely proud of the sister. That is a baller move. Good luck. Like I said, I might try a little vegan.
All right, Attorney Weiss.
I think she beat the system, and good for her. And I think she did it in the right way. Like, she didn't take advantage incorrectly. Like, she was smart. She was ahead of the curve. She must be a great chess player. So I'm happy for her.
Attorney Turner.
Black girl magic, baby. I am all about this story. Good for her.
All right, I'm Al, and I'm the judge here in Celebrity Court, and I am here for Pinky. Let me tell you something. It's hard as a restaurant to raise $25 million. Right? Not only did she raise $25 million, she raised in excess. It has to be more than that in order to buy the company back to start over. Double kudos for Pinky. Double kudos for Pinky, and we wish you all the best from Celebrity Court. Magic City, are they guilty or not guilty of paying that woman what her Tootsie Cat was really worth? Attorney Carter, what says you?
I think they're guilty. I think they need to give her tip money back. You know what she did to earn those tips? All right. I don't even know why you wanted those $1 bills. But anyway, you want to Venmo me my tip. I ain't my portion of the tips. I ain't taking the money.
Oh, okay. Attorney Weiss.
I don't understand why she wasn't an independent contractor. So I don't understand what Magic City. They're guilty of not getting good legal counsel to begin with, and they could have avoided a lot of this stuff. But give her money, Magic City.
Employment law attorney. Sorry, I hate to do the sidestep on this, but is it Georgia an at-will state?
Well, she had an employment contract. But
if it was at will, you could still fire her for any reason.
Well, if you have an employment contract, the contract dictate the terms of the employment relationship and tell whether or not you have to be fired for cause or under what terms. if you're an at-will employee, then you have no contract. There is no contract in writing. And then you're right, you can be terminated for a good reason, a bad reason, no reason at all, as long as it's not an unlawful reason. So, but in this case, this is why Attorney Weiss is confused, as we all are, is Magic City, but maybe it's because the stripper market's so competitive in Atlanta that they had a reason, like a non-compete. They also had in here, and we didn't mention it the first time, they had anti-defamation and other clauses in the employment agreement. And that's why they're saying that she actually violated the employment agreement and they did not. So I think this case is going to be really interesting. And because it's in federal court, it's something that the algoriters probably want to file because it's going to have ripple effects throughout the country.
The entertainment industry.
And by the way, just to clarify, it turns out that under Georgia law, which borrows from the federal law to determine who's an employee, strippers under federal law are employees. They're not independent contractors. The thing about an independent contractor is you're supposed to be able to work when you want to. Think about if you hire somebody to do a job, they can do it 2 a.m. whenever they want to. They also supply their own equipment. So unless she get her own bar, right, her own champagne room, she's an employee there. And as a result,
she comes to the party with her own equipment. and Georgia is an at-will state.
So but at-will doesn't mean you can't. Yeah.
All right, I'm Alan. I'm the judge here.
On hours and she brings her own equipment.
We're gonna find Magic City guilty. We're gonna find Magic City guilty of stealing money from that lady's Tissy Cat. All right, next up.
I didn't vote yet, though, Al.
Ma'am, what happened? Oh, I forgot. You know.
Yeah, because I wanted to say the line from Christine R., which is hers, not mine. My coochie, my tips. And so, yes, she is not guilty, and she should have pursued her case.
So Magic City is guilty.
Magic City is guilty, yes.
All right, next up, Attorney Mayor Eric Adams. Is he guilty or not guilty? Attorney Carter?
He is guilty. And I hope that milk dud does not get out of the primaries, because I'm gonna have to move to New York to vote against him.
Attorney Weiss?
I think he's guilty, but I want to give props to the federal judge, Judge Ho, for making his ruling. So I think the judge.
I don't understand. I want to get back to that because I don't understand what you mean. I thought if he did it without prejudice, means that they can't ever go back to him about these claims.
It's the other way around.
It's the other way around. With prejudice, never again.
Okay.
So the judge dismissed it with prejudice. The federal government said, we want without prejudice, because if we want to bring it again later or we want to do something in the future, we can. And the judge said, nope, I'm closing the door, locking it up, throwing away the key. Mr. Adams, you're free to go.
I know, but I'm not confused with what you're saying. What you're saying is he never has to be questioned about this ever again, correct?
Correct.
Right. So why do you think this is a good idea?
Because the judge, it's good for him, and it's also good for
Eric. For those who feel like that he's a snake, that he's really corrupt. This is good for him. This is good, but this isn't good necessarily for the city.
Well, but it might be, because Trump, if without that, Trump would be able to literally have his hand right up his butt and say, you know what? You get rid of your sanctuary city, or I'm about to bring the charges again.
I think you lawyers are thinking about this wrong. I think that because Trump got him off, he's now he's endeared to Trump. Trump just saved his political career and is getting him back in office by making sure that the federal judge dismisses this case against him. Therefore, he owes Trump a whole lifetime of saving his career, his reputation.
And if he doesn't pay up to Trump, what can Trump do about it? Be mad?
No. They can do another investigation and he not block and he not help him out.
That's why we're saying they cannot. He at least for this, they can't touch him anymore, because that's why the judge was brilliant about it.
I'm not talking about this particular. We're talking about, remember, in this particular case in the state of New York, this guy is under so many different investigations, allegedly, right? So all I'm saying is this message there's a message being sent out to the city of New York, with Trump stepping in and giving him the reprieve that you cannot mess with this mayor. He is protected. right?
Well,
So
that's partly that, right? There's
right.
that.
So
But
all
the
I'm saying
judge didn't have a choice, right? Because the judge can't make the federal government prosecute a case they won't do. So he did the
right,
best he could in
exactly.
that context. But I agree. He still
Okay,
has right.
okay,
They can
good.
still
He's
do
gonna
more.
lose. He's gonna
Well, here's
lose.
another point, though. Here's the other point that Attorney Weiss and Carter are making that I think we should just like punctuate is it's a victory for the system.
Okay.
Because if it had been dismissed without prejudice, then it would leave other people like him at the mercy of the federal government. And so in this case, you get a punctuation, you get a hard period at the end, like this is over. And I think that's a victory because it should send a signal to other federal judges in similar situations that that's the way to actually have the system work. Because otherwise, it's kind of like, you're in a little bit, you're out a little bit. Like you can't be a little pregnant. And what Judge Ho is saying is that you can't be a little not guilty if that's what you want this to be. So we're just going to say, hey, it's dismissed with prejudice. Go about your day. Now, the thing that you're saying is perhaps is this isn't his only problem. And perhaps he might make other bad decisions. That's a separate issue. That's between him and Jesus. But as it relates to
he has ongoing investigations. But all I'm saying is this sends a loud message in my mind that you can't mess with this guy because we got him covered. And whatever you come up with, it still runs the risk of being let off. That's all I'm saying. Okay, we're running a little long tonight. Sorry about that.
I like to travel to New York, so I'm going to vote not guilty for Eric Adams. Yeah. The other two.
No shame in your game. No shame in your game, right? All right,
how you getting there? Turkish Airlines?
And I'm the judge here. I'm the judge here, Celebrity Court, and we're going to find Eric Adams guilty of being smart. He knows who to align with, given the current administration, not only to protect his guilt or innocence, but also to protect his ability to run again. He got exactly what he wanted. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us at Celebrity Court. But this is what we're going to close with tonight. As the gavel drops on today's cases, we're reminded that fame may get you followers, but it can't keep you from consequences. From music to politics, from courtrooms to boardrooms, justice doesn't care about your followers or how famous you are. But in the celebrity court of public opinion, perception does matter, and some believe it's everything. So I'll leave you with this. Should celebrities, politicians, and athletes be judged harder because of their influence? Or do you think they are protected more because of it? Drop your verdict in the comments. And remember, here, we don't just read the headlines, we cross-examine them. Court is now adjourned.